an integrated tube preamp, and a Class AB power amp that can be switched to high bias to push it into Class A. That will sound interesting to many audiophiles. There's also a built-in DAC using the ESS9018 DAC chip. Of course, the large power meters, characteristic of advanced Paris, are also present. But there is even more, such as a phono input with switchable capacitance, 2 switchable loudspeaker groups, and even a rack out for those who still use a tape recorder. A pair of XLR inputs is also present, and of course 6 digital inputs. This makes the amp a remarkable mix of old-style analog amplifier and a modern one. Let's see how we can put it to use. The advanced Paris APEX A10 amplifier, which I will call the A10 from here on, comes with a full functioning infrared remote control. It needs to be connected to a pair of loudspeakers. If you want to use 1 or 2 subwoofers, they can be connected via RCA cables. The subwoofer outputs can be switched between mono and stereo. You can play music from your computer or laptop using a USB connection, or if your computer has such an output, via SPDIF coax or Toslink optical connections. You can also use a streaming transport connected via a 75 ohm RCA cable or an optical Toslink cable. A network player that has a DAC built in can be connected the same way, or you can use the analog outputs and connect those via either RCA or XLR cables. Regardless of whether you use a network transport or player, it needs to be connected to your modem/router via a network cable. That way it can stream music from internet radio and streaming services. If your computer is also connected to the network, you can play music over the network player using music player software. A USB connection to the computer is not needed then. Instead of or next to the network player, you can use a CD player. A turntable with a moving magnet type cartridge can be connected directly too. Don't forget to connect the ground wire to the screw terminal above the inputs. Other analog sources such as FM tuner or the analog outputs of a portable player can be connected to one of the 4 aux inputs. A modern TV can be connected via HDMI eARC, the audio return channel. Via CEC, Consumer Electronics Control, the A10 is automatically switched on and switched to the HDMI input when the TV is turned on. The TV's volume control then controls the volume of the A10. The A10 has a black metal housing with an acrylic front plate. The measurements are 430 by 392 by 175 mm, and the weight is 12 kilos. On the front we see a standby button, a 6.3 mm headphone output, 2 LEDs that indicate protection mode per channel, and in between them an LED that indicates the high bias mode is engaged. More on that later. In the center there's a rotary encoder that normally functions as a volume control. A long press changes its function to menu control, where you can select inputs and change settings. Input and volume can also be selected on the remote, along with many other functions. The infrared sensor is behind the acrylic front, as is the display. 2 vacuum tubes, again behind the acrylic front, handle the preamplification, while 2 larger meters indicate the output power in watts and 8 ohms. Buckle up, because the back is quite busy. Let's start on the left with the IC mains inlet, followed by the voltage selector for 115 or 230 volts mains voltage, with the power switch above it. 2 sets of loudspeakers can be connected and played simultaneously, provided they are rated at 8 ohm or higher. When using a single pair of loudspeakers, the impedance may be as low as 4 ohms. This is where the first pair is connected. Spades, banana plugs or bare wire can be used. The second pair of loudspeakers can be connected here. Selecting which speakers are active is done in the menu. Then we have the analog inputs, starting with a pair of XLR inputs. Next is the phono input with ground terminal and the input capacitance switch. Then come the line level RCA inputs, one labeled CD and 4 labeled aux 1 to 4. There also is a rec out for those who still use a tape recorder. The pre-outs let you hook up a power amplifier, for instance for bi-amping your speakers. The amp in lets you use only the power amp. For instance, if you want to use the left and right channels as part of a surround setup. You can connect up to 2 subwoofers, either dual mono or regular stereo. A small switch allows you to engage the high bias. Normally the Class AB power amp works up to 5 watts in Class A and switches to Class B at higher power. Maximum power is 130 watts in 8 ohms. In high bias mode it stays in Class A, but is limited to 10 watts total output per channel. A Class A offers a higher resolution but less power. Next are the digital inputs, starting with a connector for the advanced Paris A-BTC module. It offers two-way Bluetooth and will become available in Q2 2026 at €149. Then there is the coaxial SPDIF input, with the optical Toslink inputs next to it. Both coax and optical inputs support PCM up to 192 kHz 24 bits. The USB-B input is USB Audio Class 2 compatible and supports PCM 192 kHz 24 bits, DSD64 and DSD128. The HDMI eARC input supports 192 kHz PCM and CSC. The USB-A port below it is for updates only. A trigger input and output allow the A10 switch on and off together with other equipment. Inside we see a 380 VA toroidal transformer connected to a linear power supply. The transformer is largely shielded off by one of the cooling profiles. There is a small HDMI input board, a larger digital board, the tube preamplifier board, and on the lower board we see 2 power amplifiers with their cooling profiles. 2 large boards against the front hold the display electronics that drive the power meters. Input choices can be made by pressing and turning the rotary encoder, but since this can be done on the remote too, using a dedicated button per input, I presume the remote will be used most often. The A10 works like amplifiers have for decades. Only the ways the settings are controlled feels very modern. These can also be adjusted via the rotary encoder or the remote control. You can disable CSC if you don't want the TV to control the A10. Set a specific startup volume, adjust the tone and volume, change the screen brightness and much more. The Acoustic Energy Radiance 1 loudspeakers were connected to the A10 using Kimber 4PR loudspeaker cable. They were placed on 1980s target loudspeaker stands on Stack Audio AVA-50 isolators. The T5 subwoofer with Stack Audio AVA SW isolators was connected to the loudspeaker terminals on the A10. I could have used the sub outputs, but I'm used to this setup, so it made comparison easier. The source was the Eversolo DMP A6 Master Edition with B-Technique LPS A6 linear power supply. Connector via Vanderhall the video cable for SPDIF connection and Siltec London RCA interconnects for analog. The network switch was the Opton Audio Ether Regen with the Opton Audio UltraCaps 1.2 power supply. The connection was made via a Cat5 patch cable. From the switch, the fiber connection goes to the central switch on the 3rd floor and from there to the small green computer Sonic Transporter i7 CDR, which was running Roon Server, Audiophiles Studio Server and Minim Server. For more information on my reference setups and network, see my video about my reference setups April 2025. Links are in the top right corner of the screen, at the end of this video and in the description. I started digitally using the USB-B input on the A10. Then I listened to analog using the CD input. Finally, I replaced the Eversolo with the Mytek Brooklyn Bridge 2 using the streaming DAC section. Using the Class AB settings and a digital signal from the Eversolo resulted in an open sound with great microdynamics, good resolution across the entire spectrum and average sibilance control. The sound was slightly anchored to the speakers, but overall the stereo image was credible with decent focus. I then used the CD input and thus the analog outputs from the Eversolo. This improved the resolution notably, especially the texture in the low frequencies. The loudspeakers now disappeared completely and the stereo image became deeper. Next I switched to the Mytek, used solely as a streaming DAC, and that revealed the true potential of this amplifier. The detail, the warmth for lack of a better word, the pace and rhythm, this is a very fine amplifier. It simply deserves a higher quality source to truly bloom. I rate it top of my setup too. The digital side of this amp is decent for its price. The analog part goes beyond that. It is a very good Class AB amplifier and depending on the needs of your speakers can become even more refined in a high bias mode. For those who can place the TV between the speakers using the A10 via HDMI audio return channel or a Toslink cable will drastically improve the TV sound. Don't forget to set the TV output to stereo instead of Dolby Digital. For those with many sources, this is a dream machine. For those who don't need that, it doesn't get in the way. Okay, it's not the smallest amplifier, but that is a small price to pay for the sound quality. And on that bombshell, we come to the end of this video. A new one is coming soon, so don't forget to subscribe or follow me on Patreon, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram or TikTok. Patreon and YouTube Premium members get early access and no ads. A huge thank you to everyone who supports the channel financially. It's great to see the increasing number of small donations. Please don't be shy. I appreciate every single euro, pound, dollar equivalent you donate. You keep me independent and motivated. It's easy to contribute using the QR code on the screen or the links in the description. I am Hans Beekhuizen. Thank you for watching. And whatever you do, enjoy the music.